Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.
Hi everyone, welcome to Senior Nation. I'm your host Phyllis Ayman, and you are listening to the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. We are indeed a senior nation with 100 plus million adults over the age of 50. And we are here to bring you up-to-date information about successful aging, healthful longevity, and becoming what I call a well-ager, to dignity, respect, quality of life, and quality of care for our parents, our grandparents, and loved ones. We at Senior Nation will be your trusted voice for informed choices, meaningful actions, and a vibrant life at every age. Though the Source TV Radio Network, it's known for its dedication to bringing the highest level of jazz content, of the network are also dedicated to bringing this important content to this fast-growing demographic, and I'm always so thankful for the opportunity. So now I'd like to begin by introducing tonight's guest, who I'm happy to say I've known for several years. Jack York is an entrepreneur in the senior living space, founder of two transformative companies, It's Never Too Late and TaleGate. These companies have redefined how technology and storytelling can benefit older adults, regardless of where they are physically or cognitively. Since founding IN2L in 1999, Jack has spoken at literally hundreds of conferences and events around the world, highlighting both how technology can benefit older adults, particularly individuals living with dementia, as well as the power of storytelling. His work has been highlighted in the Wall Street Journal, NPR, and dozens of senior living publications. So I'm so thrilled to have Jack here with me this evening.
Hey, Phyllis, how the heck are you?
Hey, Jack, what's happening? It's been a few years since we've seen each other, 4 or 5, if I remember
it just
correctly.
seems like, as we get older, it all kind of blends together. When the last time we saw each other, but it's always a fun interaction when you're involved.
And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to recall a little bit. It was something called the Pioneer Network, right? And I was doing a reading from a book that I wrote, and I was reading the foreword, which was written by Dr. Bill Thomas, a good friend of yours. You introduced me to him, and you were filming. So that was kind of cool. But
yeah,
anyway,
well, no, it's fun to see. It's fun to, I love the show, love your song to open things up with. So let her rip and let's see where we go.
Okay, so first of all, I want you to tell people about what IN2L stands for and what it is, and how you came about creating that company.
Yeah, well, it's a long story. I'll try to give a little bit of the Reader's Digest version, but my background had all been in the Silicon Valley world. I was a sales VP for a semiconductor company, and never thinking of it as a business. In 1998, a really good friend of mine had the idea to donate some computers to a local assisted living community. And 1998, it's just like Windows was first coming out. I mean,
Right.
it was just a whole different technology landscape. So we did that. We donated computers, again, never thinking of it as a business. And then several months later, had a real spiritual experience that as my mom died, her spirit was telling me to do something with my life that had an impact. And so without knowing anything about senior living or engagement technology or whatever on anything like that, we jumped off a cliff and started IN2L, which stands for It's Never Too Late. And the concept was really pretty simple, that you'd go to a senior living community and see these people that had lived such rich lives, whether they're, teachers and welders and lawyers and doctors, just a whole myriad of people from all over the world. And then you'd look at the activity programming inside these communities, and it was, it felt like you're dealing with 10, 12-year-olds. And so, and I mean, the people had the biggest heart. None of this is a critique of the incredible people that work in senior living, but they just didn't have any tools to really have meaningful engagement for the residents. So IN2L, and now it's 27 years later, it's under the LifeLoop umbrella. But from day one, it was just it wasn't that, I don't know, I never thought it was that complicated of a concept. It was just, for people that use computers, what do we use them for? We like them for, maybe it's music, and maybe it's spirituality, and maybe it's communicating with family and friends, and maybe it's Zoom calls, whatever it may be. Why shouldn't folks that are older and maybe have not been exposed to technology before, they should have access to that same experience? And that's really what we built. And it, like any other startup, it takes a lot longer than you hope it will. But it wound up now the IN2L technology as part of LifeLoop is in, it's almost 6,000 different communities in the U.S. and Canada. So it's been to be honest, it's exceeded beyond my wildest dreams, and am eternally grateful. And that's kind of part of what led to the founding of TaleGate.
Right. So, but I want to stop there for a minute to talk a little bit more about what IN2L is. And it really is on an iPad. And right, isn't that correct?
Well,
if I remember,
it was, we as the years have gone by, we've really evolved the technology. So originally, it was a lot of times it was used in a group context. So it would be a part of a 70-inch touchscreen, or there was always a touchscreen. And then as the years have evolved, it's hardware agnostic now and can run on any tablet. But the first years of the company were very much group experiences on different platforms that were all touchscreen.
Okay. And so from there, and I know you've done some really fantastic work in the field of dementia and, cognitive loss. And I remember a few years, and a lot of this is based on your mom, who was the inspiration for this, correct, right?
Yep.
And I was saying before, I had said it was Barbados, but it's Cameroon. You have a senior center in your mother's name in Cameroon. And I remember a couple of years ago, you had a telethon or something that I participated in, right? So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, but the whole IN2L being used in a dementia context was really not what we planned. You can always, in retrospect, you can always make it sound like you have everything all magically planned out. In reality, it's just, we had really cool, it was either folks in the life enrichment space or therapy, a speech and occupational and physical therapists. They just use the system in ways that we never would have imagined. It was, I think in retrospect, it was a benefit that we didn't really have a lot of experience in the space. I think a lot of times people think they know more than their customers do. And we knew that we didn't. So we were very open to ideas and, what's a better way to use this? And what we just found was that the power of music and the power of, there were so many ways to engage people living with dementia that it just wound up working in that context that we didn't plan, and it continues to do that. It's a very rewarding. So what happened along the way, all these speaking things that I've done over the years, I was speaking at a conference in Perth, Australia, with an organization called the Global Aging Network that is part of Leading Age. And this is 10 years ago. And I was on a panel with 3 different people, and one of these people, you don't know anybody, you're just kind of thrown together, and this guy comes walking in the room, and he looked exactly like Eddie Murphy in Coming to America. He had the whole the whole gear on from
Right.
Cameroon, and just had an incredible story of his life and what the oppression that he saw for girls and also for elders in Cameroon. So he started an organization called CDVTA that we have been a huge partner of. And so we whimsically, I sent him $500, not expecting anything. And with that $500, he set up the Jack York Northwest Cameroonian Elderly Women Goat Fund. And so he bought
I remember
goats.
that. I remember
Yeah,
that.
with the $500, he bought goats to go to different villages, and it just blew me away. And so it's like a whole long story in and of itself. But fast forward 10 years later, we have been a part of initiatives raising money for water, for wells, for schools, for bathrooms, and it's impacted well over 200,000 people in Cameroon. So it's just kind of a magical thing that's happened. And Francis is actually going to be back in the U.S. in November, and we're going to be traveling all throughout the U.S. in November, and going to different stops along the way. So we're unique soulmates. I was kind of an upper middle class kid from the suburb of LA, and he grew up in a thatched hut in a village in Cameroon. And life and God can, if you keep your eyes open, some magical things can happen if you take a risk and lean into things. And that's kind of our story.
I agree. And that's what I was thinking when you were talking about that, because that's kind of who I am. And I think when I had my previous podcast, I think I had him on the show, or had the both of you on the show, and maybe we
yeah, we did something together.
Yeah,
great. Absolutely.
I think we should do
was
that
fun.
again. Yeah, that was really fun.
Absolutely.
So so from there, talk a little bit about TaleGate, what it means, how you came up with the name. I remember when we were at that event at Pioneer Network, and I saw I don't think you'd call it a van. I don't know what you call it.
It's a big trailer. Yeah, we had the big trailer.
Yeah, it was retrofitted, and it was really something special. But before you do, Sergio says, are you working in the English or French part of Cameroon?
Yeah, no, Sergio, thanks for asking. Francis is from the English side, and I've gone over there 3 times, and a lot of his work has been on the English side, but there's been, as you may know, there's so much civil unrest going on over there that it's become very dangerous on the English side. So the last few projects we've been involved with have been more on the French side, but I've traveled to both parts of the country, and it's a beautiful, beautiful country, beautiful people, but it's just hard to see so much political unrest in places like that. But thanks for the question.
So do you speak any French?
No, Francis does. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm like the typical American that's like got tunnel vision
that's very disappointing,
towards
Jack.
their own thing.
No, come on, parlez-vous français? Je parle un petit peu français.
My daughter, who is a spectacular musician, she speaks fluent French. Does that count? Is that close enough?
Yeah, sure. By association, absolutely. Okay. So anyway, so talk about TaleGate, because like I said, I saw you retrofitted this trailer. I mean, it was really quite phenomenal. Yeah. So talk about, because I haven't seen you since then. We haven't spoken except for a few weeks.
The evolution of the idea is the last couple of years of IN2L, before it was acquired, as the company got bigger, I really wasn't the right CEO anymore, and I was self-aware enough to realize that. So I really spent a lot of time with customers, and so this is 5 years ago, I turned 60, and IN2L turned 20. So we invented this thing called the 60-20 tour in a van with GoPro cameras hooked up to it. And so I went all over the country really, it was primarily kind of music. We would sing songs and drive around and do things. A lot of the people we took on the rides were living with dementia. And honestly, it was really the first experience I had with, I mean, so much of my IN2L life was selling a product into a senior living community, but I really wasn't spending a lot of time with the residents. And so
Right.
with this 60/20 tour, I really got to know the residents, and it was like, man, these people are just phenomenal. And I wanted to do something to kind of elevate them, and to a certain extent elevate senior living. And so we started TaleGate. A friend of mine, Michelle Rochkin, had the idea for the name, and the original concept of it was kind of combining a big tailgate party, and it's because it's spelled TALE, because you're capturing people's stories. So
Right.
it was combining these big parties with the capturing stories. We built a recording studio inside the trailer. And so
It was
what
cool. It was
happened though,
very
yeah,
cool.
what happened was what I really wanted to do was capture the stories, and the trailer was such a it was like the circus comes to town. So it became more about the parties than the stories and the
Right.
elders and what we were capturing. That was the practical reason. The other part of it is Jim Parker, who's a great friend of mine and was our tailgate driver. He was getting kind of burned out driving this 42-foot trailer around, and we took out a stoplight outside of Boston, making a
Oh,
tight
shoot.
turn. And I think that was like, he was like, okay, I'm done with this. So
That's
so
right.
yeah, that was kind of two different reasons to end the big trailer. But since then, we've really evolved the company into different ways that we tell stories of aging, and we try, everything we do is positive. We're not trying to be Pollyannish about the realities of aging and the physical things that happen, but the perception that's out there is always so, you and I have talked about this ad
Right.
nauseum, that the perception is so negative that
Right.
you want to be showing there's another side to it. And so that's really I think the gestation of TaleGate is just different ways to do that. And I can kind of talk through them as we keep going.
Yeah. So one of them, I know you brought a video with you of Kay in Italy, and I loved watching this because, like you said, people, first of all, people in assisted living communities, they're kind of over there. They're out of
Yeah.
sight, out of mind. Goodbye. Thank you very much. You thanks for your service or whatever it is, and go live over there. Nobody sees you. Nobody hears you. You're kind of invisible. And, like you say, now I come from, the long-term care nursing home, skilled nursing home space. But so some of those people go to assisted living. Some are in short-term rehab. They came from assisted living and they need rehab. But certainly through the years, I've met some incredible, incredible people. And, I always lament that, people just look at people and say, it's a person sitting in a wheelchair and there's not much to them. I always tell this story, and I think I have it in my second book, that there's a man and he's wheeled onto this stage, and this audience erupts in applause and cheers and bravos, and they raise to their feet. And this man is sitting in the wheelchair, and you really don't know who he is at first. And then the audience comes down and he starts talking, and he's had a stroke, and he talks with one side of his face is very impaired, I'll say, and his speech is very slurred. And who is this man? This man is Kirk Douglas after he had a stroke.
Yeah.
And every time I tell the story, I see it in my mind. I said, now, if people didn't know it was to Kirk Douglas, they just passed this guy sitting in a wheelchair, with part of his face, askew, with slurred speech. But everybody is, or for the most part, the Kirk Douglas in their own lives or to their families or whatever. And we tend to just not pay any attention to them. So, yeah, I think it's great what you're doing, but maybe we could bring up that video of
Before you launch it, let me give you a little context.
Okay.
just so I don't forget to say it, I think, and we're going to talk about the 100-year-old interviews that I'm doing in a
Right.
little while. What happens, which is totally relevant to what you just said about Kirk Douglas, is it's easy, and I think we're all guilty of doing this. You look at somebody and you can subconsciously judge them. And I've
Right.
interviewed at least 150 to 200 people, over 100 or close to 100 or over, in the last year and a half. And what happens is you hear what they've done in their life. And even though they look exactly the same, you completely transform your perception of them. And I think
Correct.
that's been a huge thing for me, is just the person that's a frail guy on a walker walking up to the van to go for a ride. By the end of the ride, he's the guy in World War II that jumped out of a plane to save the life of a British pilot. I mean, those kind
Right.
of stories. So we'll talk more about that later, but that's a totally relevant comment. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yes.
the there's like kind of multiple storylines with this clip we're going to show. And so it's a trailer essentially for about a 25-minute documentary that we did capturing this story. So part of what TaleGate does is put together we got a whole team of videographers and editors that we do really high, I think super high quality documentaries about aging. And what happened is we were doing a project for Arrow Senior Living. We were on a couple of their Ohio campuses, and they were having us do a story about love and senior living, about things that still happen, about people that, whether it's people that have been married for 70 years or people that just met 6 months ago, to kind of just change that narrative. And while we were doing that documentary, we interviewed a woman whose husband had died a year or so ago. But her story was that she was 19 years old and her uncle was in Sicily right as World War II was ending in the late 40s. And one of his colleagues, who didn't speak a word of English, was dying to have a pen pal, an American woman. So this man introduces his niece to this friend of his, and they start writing. And the guy doesn't speak a word of English, so he's got to, for those young people out there, the world did not always have Google Translate. He had to take a dictionary and literally translate word to word to understand what he was saying. And so they had this just really romantic letters back and forth. She wants to go to Italy to meet him, and her dad won't let her go. And the minute that she turns 21, she has the nerve at 21 years old, it's 1950, she totally by herself and that was
Wow.
such a big deal in
Yeah.
1950. So she flies by herself to Sicily to meet this man. And of course, they have a 70 plus year marriage. They've got all these kids, all these grandkids. And when I was talking to her, she was so gregarious. It was just, hey, you want to go back? You want to go back to Sicily? And she's like, yeah, I'll go. And it's like, that's a big part of the message, was that you got to ask. People may still want to be in the game,
Right.
but nobody asked. And her family did not want her to go, except for one of her daughters that just said, you know what, if she dies over there, it'll be what a way to go. And so that's just the framing of this clip you're going to see. That's a couple minutes long, but you'll just see kind of what it was like for her to recreate her trip to Sicily in 1950.
So I just want to say one thing about that, which is that people think that when they look at an older person, and I say it's profiling, profiling is not really, just police. We all profile a stereotype, whatever word you want to use. But people think that older people still don't have dreams or wants or goals.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
They think that it's just an empty shell, and that's not the case at all. Quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. So I'm looking forward to our viewers and seeing this clip. So yeah, Mel, let's.
And while you play the clip, I'll try to move my camera. I'm starting to look like a ghost, so
It's
I'll try
kind
to
of
get
getting dark. It's kind of getting
I'll
a
try to
little
get
dark there.
I'll try to get a better angle here of the camera.
Okay. So let's see.
just can't imagine going myself. I wouldn't have nerve to do it.
She is feisty, 95 years old, and that little lady, she is the most bullheaded, stubborn person I have ever seen in my life.
She's like no other 95-year-old woman I've met.
You don't always have to be the Energizer Bunny.
Everybody loves her, and she loves everybody back.
I will miss her terribly when she goes to Italy.
She apparently flew to Italy in 1950, that's 74 years ago, to meet her future husband, and we're very happy and proud to be a part of this recreation. We hope this trip brings you very fond memories. Thank you.
21 years old, didn't speak Italian, didn't know anybody there.
Viral.
Okay.
Long time no see, huh?
Well, you're
I'm 95.
so wonderful.
I'm 95.
I know.
Grande zia, grande siamo. Yeah. We just got along beautifully. He was such a good man. I walked down the sidewalk and cried all the way. Because my dad wasn't here. I couldn't have asked for anything better. We were married 70 years. I had a happy life with 6 children, and he treated me wonderful. I talked to him every night. I talked to his picture every night. Okay, Benny, I'm going to be going to Italy, to Castelvetrano, where you were born. And I'm leaving tomorrow. And I will see your nephews and nieces. And I'm looking forward to it.
Oh my gosh, I have tears in my eyes.
Yeah, you know, there's so many backstories to the trip that when she was holding up her ring, like little box of a ring, when we were flying over, it was the original ring box that she had, and so
wow.
it had an address on the back, and we thought, you know, there's no way in hell it's going to that store is still going to be there, and so we go there, and it's still, you know, it's still there, and we went into the store. You know, we went in the store just like with our cameras barreling. The guy's like, "What's going on?" The guy didn't speak any English, but he kind of figured it out, and then he runs to the back of the store and comes back with a picture of his grandfather, that it would have been his grandfather that made that ring.
Oh my goodness.
That she was wearing. And then when we were in the church, and, you know, she's just crying, it was so emotional. There was a bust, you know, a really well done bust of the priest that married her, that was in the church. And so, I mean, and again, it was it's the nerve that she had in 1950, and then the nerve that she had in 2024. And I think, like you just said, Phyllis, it's the preconceived notions that become self-fulfilling. You know, it all just becomes self-fulfilling if you don't still give people a reason to feel that their life matters, then everything just starts, you know, kind of falling apart. I don't think it has anything, or obviously age is age, and physical realities happen, but a lot of what happens is because people just lose their purpose.
Right. And I think, and you know, you and I talked a little bit about communication before this, and I want you to, you know, talk about your takeaways from your experiences in all of this. But, you know, all too often, it's not only that people are said, well, you're over there, and people don't pay attention and think they don't have needs or wants or desires or anything, but it's how they communicate or talk around people that kind of makes them invisible. But, you know, I just thought of something the other day. I just thought of something now that happened the other day, because I was at my daughter's house, and she's 45 and she has 3 children, and I forgot what it was, that the kids went to some adventure place or whatever, and they came back, and I forgot what it was that they did, and I said, oh, we were talking about those indoor flying. Indoor flying.
Like the kind of like you're skydiving, like indoor
yeah. I forgot what
skydiving?
you call them, but okay.
Yeah.
So I had said, gee, I had always wanted to do that. And I had a chance to do it about 4 or 5 years ago at an event. The guy took people after the event to, he always has some kind of team experience. And so he took us to do that. And my daughter was, you've always wanted to do that? I said, yeah, I've wanted to do that for, I can't even tell you how many years. And of course, she never knew that. And she kind of discounted the fact that that was something I really always wanted to do. And I think that too often our families don't even know what's inside an older person's heart or mind. And I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's maybe that's a good segue to kind of the what I'm doing with 100-year-olds now, is because you don't find out unless you ask. And I think
Right.
that you wind up and again, it's it's not, I never want to sound like it's a mass critique of humanity. It's just normal assumptions that people make, assumptions that I made. I've been in the field for 28 years now, 27 years, and I assume people living with dementia would not want to be a part of some of the things we do, and so I think all it is just it's like, what is it? Who's the poet? The Angela.
Maya Angelou.
Yeah, the
People don't remember they may not remember what you say, but they always remember how you make them feel.
It's that one, but it's the do the best you can, but when you know better, do better. And I just think that I think what's been rewarding for me is all the speaking I'm doing and things like that. It's just how it's really fun to kind of, in our own little way, try to reframe people's perspectives of aging, and in a way that's joyous. I never think that, I don't want to sound dismissive of this, but I've never thought that the National Anti-Aging Week, I don't think that does anything. I think you watch that clip, that you watch that clip of that woman at 95 hopping on a plane, going across the continents and living life. I mean, I think that's what makes people think, maybe grandma still is game for something. Let's go ask her if she wants to, go to the park. I mean, it doesn't have to be Sicily. It's just change the experience for them.
Yeah, no, actually I was thinking of something else. They went to this, my daughter's family, they went to this, it's like a rope climbing, what's the word I'm looking for? Like whatever. Anyway, like a rope climbing.
Those little walls, right? Those rock walls.
And when they came back, so I said to my granddaughter, "Oh, I would have done that," and she was shocked because my daughter, she's not an adventurous person at all. My son is more like me, and she was like, "Mommy, do you know that Grandma said she would do that?" So they're looking at me already, thinking, and I'm 72, but I'm pretty vibrant, that in their mind, they wouldn't have imagined that I would consider doing something like that.
Well, and what speaks to that too is like when we were doing the trailer, the trailer part of TaleGate, that we had inside the trailer, we had cornhole and Connect 4 and a dunk tank and, all these kind of tailgatey party kind of experiences. And again, I'm almost ashamed to admit that I was surprised at how wherever people were, they wanted to still do it. So it just meant with the wheelchair, stick the wheelchair right next to cornhole.
Right.
And the person they still want to compete. They would line up. We had this little it was like a bucket dunk tank. It wasn't very sophisticated, but people would line up in their wheelchairs to try to dunk the administrators, with water. And it's just like
Right.
that whole competition. And it just gets, it just gets taken away from people in just the context of senior living, doing the best they can, but having to do so much task-oriented work. It's
Right.
hard to do, go above and beyond just kind of getting through the day a little bit. And it's great to see examples of people that are doing it.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I think for a lot of people, a lot of caregivers, they do get to know people, know what they like, what they don't like, what they're interested in, and they connect with people. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot of people do. And I'm thinking of so many years ago. I think some of the things that really made me realize this is, like in the early 2000s or late 1990s, I was working in this facility, and in the Bronx, Riverdale. And there was a woman there. She was very, very tall. She was in her 90s and kind of hunched over, whatever. And who was she? She was one of the original models for Coco Chanel. And you'd go in her room and see all these pictures. And I think it was in that very early stage when I was doing that, wow, these people, you look at them and have this preconceived notion, but she had wonderful stories to tell. Can you imagine? And of course,
have you seen those? Have you seen those? Every once in a while, they show up on the internet. But the like in the 40s and 50s, what a 60-year-old looked like.
Yes.
Or it's fascinating. So I think that there is really, really cool, just cool perspectives of that changing, of that,
Right.
of having it be that there's still the number is so irrelevant compared to what life that can still be there.
Right. So Sally says, I found working in senior care that music from a resident's youth, and we could talk about this, by the way, a favorite era can evoke powerful emotions and memories. We use group sing-alongs and karaoke to individual sessions with a personalized playlist. So as it turns out, talking about personalized playlists, Dan Cohen is going to be my guest on Senior Nation at the beginning of October. And Dan Cohen started Music in Memory and now has this company, Right to Music, and it's all about personalized playlists. You know Dan, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Dan's been such a leader in all this stuff. And Sally, to your point, music, and again, the fact that I came into this without a lot of experience, the power of people living with dementia and music was really transformational for IN2L, just realizing the importance. And I always use this example. I've said this 1,000 times that I've always been a big Springsteen guy. And so I love Bruce Springsteen. And so it's not like I'm going to turn 82 and really want to listen to the Carpenters. You still, who you are is who you are. And I think to your credit, Sally, it's the, what I've seen, the communities that really thrive, and it has nothing to do with what they look like aesthetically. It's really the spirit inside of a community. It's the people like you that go through that extra effort to really find out what makes that person click. And I think it's practically, it has practical benefits as well, because once you find that out, you go through all this, a lot of work to get there. But once you get there, you can get them to a better place so much faster when you put all that effort in up front. So kudos to you, Sally, for wherever you work and whatever you're doing. It's very cool.
I agree. So talk a little bit before we show the next, this graphic that we have about vintage voices, since you're talking about 100-year-olds.
Yeah, what happened is so TaleGate, we do the documentaries, and while they're being edited, we have our own team of editors and videographers, but while they're being edited, I've been on the road and it's been like an 18-month journey. And I partnered with a good friend of mine, Nathan Jones from Dash Media, who might be someone good also for you to get on the show, Phyllis. But I've known him for many, many years. He's a young guy. He started a company called Dash Media that's all about using stories primarily through short video snippets and social media clips. That he's great at Instagram, TikTok, getting all kinds of visibility to older adults all over the country. Most of his customers are senior living communities. But anyway, we partnered putting together what's called Vintage Voices 100. And so again, I drive all over the country and I interview, and we don't check anybody's ID. So if you're in your 90s, we're pretty flexible. But it has been, I tell you, it has just been what started out as kind of a fun, whimsical thing for me to do 18 months ago, or about a little over about a year and a half ago. It'll be 18 months when we wrap it up. But it's turned into really almost just this spiritual journey of people that have lived, and anybody that's 100 has some connection to World War II. I feel almost a compulsion to try to gather as many of these stories as possible, because they're going to be gone in the not too distant future. So I just go all over the country and stopping at senior living communities, and you can. This is a good time to roll up the picture. You'll see what it is. So we have on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Facebook, Vintage Voices 100. And any of those channels, when you click it, you'll see this coming up, and hopefully that'll pop up in a second.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have that come up, because it really was quite interesting to see. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a channel, and every one of those people, you just click, if you're online, you just click their picture, and it opens up to whatever their story is. And so it's nothing we ever do is we're never doing anything to mock anybody. It's all about elevating. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's poignant, sometimes it's spiritual, but everything we do is really about just trying to elevate these people that have lived such rich lives. And we've had tens of thousands of followers and millions of views. And I think the reason it's been such a popular channel is that we look graphics of who's watching it, and it's primarily folks that are close to 50 through 65 or so. And I think it's because they're showing these 80-year-old parents saying, hey, look, Mom, this lady's 20 years older than you are, and she's still kicking butt. So again, I just think, it's been, for me, I can go on and on these stories, but I'll just give you a quick example. This is 2 weeks ago. One day, it's talking to this 101-year-old lady that spent so much of her life building miniature doll houses. And so we went to a museum, and saw all of this artwork that she had built, just fractionally. And then the next day, we're talking to a 102-year-old guy that was in two, and he was fighting in Guam in the Navy, and his brother was in the Marines, and they both coincidentally were in Guam, and there was a little bit of a lull in the fighting, and he was given permission to go try to hook up with his brother, and he finds his brother dead. He finds his brother shot. And so you have this, just the lives people have lived and what they have gone through. At least 75, 80% of the people I've interviewed grew up with no power, with bathrooms that were outside. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that they have in common is they never complain about it. It was just what life was. And so as you can imagine, my sympathy level for complaining teenagers or 20-somethings is fairly thin. And I think it's so healthy to, I think it's just so healthy to expose yourself to that and just ask. And we can talk, in a minute about kind of the communication piece that I've lived through.
So I just want to say, Cassie has asked earlier, I think you mentioned Cameroon. How in the world did you get there, and where in Cameroon? And it is a kind of an interesting, well, you kind of went through the story.
Yeah, I talked a little bit more. It's
right. It is an interesting story.
Yeah, I've gone throughout the country, and most of my time has been spent on the English side in Mamamba, and then also, but a lot of the stuff on the French side. And so anyway, you know, if anybody's interested, I think you're going to show my email. I mean, I love talking about this stuff individually. Right. So, I mean, I don't know if you want, I can throw my email address up there later. But
yeah, absolutely. I want you to do that. And there was something else I wanted to ask you about. Oh, but isn't there, what's the name of the senior center that's in your mother's
name? Well,
yeah,
Cameroon? Again, it's such it's hard for me to tell these stories quickly, but what happened is that I sent him the $500. He does the seniors. He does the goats. And I was like, well, I just said, what if you know, what would you do if we raised $30,000? And he'd always wanted to build a senior center in this country of 38 million people. There's not one structure dedicated to older adults. So I went to all my friends in the senior living industry, and we sold goats for $400, and we raised the money, and they built the senior center in my mother's honor. That's the Dorothy York Senior Center. That's still 8.5 years later is still packed with people doing all kinds of projects, and it's almost like a sacred. It's almost like a temple in the middle of Cameroon. So it's one of those things. When I went over to the opening of the senior center, I went over there for the grand opening. There was 3,000 Cameroonians. 3/4 of them had never seen a white person before, and they're all chanting my mother's name. So that goes in my my internal database as the most surreal moment ever.
Right. The Dorothy York Senior Center, right?
Yeah, the Dorothy York Senior Center. That's right.
That's very cool. So, you know, when you say that, I had a question in mind when you were showing some of these, when we were looking at the vintage voices and some of the other things. And I actually had thought about this when we talked the last time, and I knew we were going to have this conversation. So you mentioned that, you know, in Cameroon, they had never really seen a white person before. And I wanted to ask you, when you travel to all these senior communities, what's the demographic breakdown? Do you see it being somewhat, monochromatic, I want to say, because depends on what senior living community. Some of them are very pricey.
Yeah. It's been the one thing that I have. I mean, I know so many people from IN2L. I know so many people in CCRCs or in life plan communities that are, predominantly, they're more upscale white communities, frankly. There's no other way to say it. And so I love that I've been to several affordable housing communities. I was at an Erickson community and had the absolute honor to meet the first Black female professor at the University of North Carolina. That it was in 1962 that she was the that's what it like. It was fascinating to talk about it. It's also fascinating to talk about the evolution that people have had, that the people have had from, and their own evolution from a race standpoint. I spent a lot of time in the South, and people, it's really, I think it's, things can be kind of an elephant in the closet. It's great to open them up. It's great to have the, I'm sorry, Cassie. Why don't you? It's a longer conversation. I can give you.
Yeah, which city is your mom's senior center? I was going to say, why don't you give your email address or way for people to contact you? So if she wants to, you can certainly give her more.
Because it's the senior center is in the middle of a village in the English side of Cameroon. I'm actually drawing a blank right now. It's a very small village, but I have all kinds of stuff I can talk to you offline about. And I don't know where you're from, but Francis and I are going to be traveling throughout the U.S. in November. And if you're anywhere close to some of the cities we're in, maybe we can hook up. But we'll talk about that later. So, yeah. Anyway, I was just saying that you know, like to a man, like the man that I was just talking to from World War II, he stumbles upon his his brother dead and shot to death. It's natural that he would have maybe not the most positive feelings about the Japanese. I mean, who can not understand that? But then you look at his life and how he's evolved, and I think that's part of the joy of this journey for me, is the people are so open about their life experiences. If you're authentic in the questions you ask, if you give them time to process and answer, it's unbelievable. We were talking about this before the show started, Phyllis, is that everybody wants to jump in and finish the sentence for someone.
Right.
And what's happened with me in these visits is, you know, it's a 45-minute, maybe an hour-long conversation. By the end of that hour, the people are so different from where they were at the beginning. And it's just because I'm just asking open-ended questions and letting the answer, you know, let the answer come out in due time, and not wait for the person to, or not jump in to finish the question for them.
Right. So do you want to just give your email address or contact information, or, you know, a way for Jeannie to contact you, or get more information about the
the answer to that question is, it's in the northwest part of Cameron, but just reach out to me. I'm going to say it kind of slow. It's JYork, JYORK, at TaleGate for Joy. It's TALEGATE, the number 4, and joy.com.
Okay. All right. So yeah, and here's somebody else. And
you know, I'm impressed with the international flavor of your audience here. So
absolutely.
I love the organization that Francis founded is called CDVTA, like Charles David Victor Tom Apple. And that's a way for, if you're in Cameroon, for you to be able to see what the work that he's doing.
Yeah. And we said, I think I had you both on when I had my previous podcast years ago, and maybe when he's here in November, maybe we can arrange that. But, you know, when I was asking you about, because we only have a few minutes left, when I was asking you about demographics, a couple of months ago, I had on the show, his name is Raymond Judson, and he wrote a book, Aging While Black in America. And so at one point I was thinking it might be interesting to have you both on, but to talk about this, because it is such a different experience, I think, in some of these assisted living communities, which are more upscale, which tend to be, because of the nature of them and just the nature of the way things are,
do you know
socioeconomically.
Do you know Deek Keto from AG Rhodes?
Oh, gee, that sounds so familiar.
Oh, he's a really good friend of mine. He's one of the few Black CEOs in the senior living world. And I'll introduce you to him, because he would be great to have. And he has such a good perspective of kind of his, you know, what he's seen, and his kind of climb up the board level and all that kind of stuff. He's brilliant what he does.
I think I met him once someplace. I don't remember. I think either I've spoken to him or I met him, but I certainly have heard the name, and years ago when I was more involved in that whole space. But I think it's you know, I think, you know, you were talking about communication and how important it is. And I kind of want to say this for people out there also who may have older parents or loved ones, that it is a tendency to want to jump in, to think that you know the answer, or not give people the time and the space. We all are impatient. We rush, you know, we want things done quickly. And sometimes, you know, an older person, you know, and I'm not stereotyping, but sometimes a person needs more time. Sometimes I need even more time. You know, you have so many things going through your head, and maybe people are having, you know, some memory issues. And I think it's important to remember not to do that, because people really do internalize that, and it makes them feel.
Yeah, you know what, I think too that it's not, and I say this with no research background or clinical background, but I think sometimes that pace of answering a question or whatever, however you want to phrase it, it's easy to assume that's aging. And I honestly think it's more just that people grew up in a world that did not have all this stupid social media and all that. They're used to a way of communicating that's a lot different how younger people communicate. And I think it's trying to just get away from it being right or wrong. It's just both sides trying to understand the other one a little bit more. But I just think, I think I told you this before, Phyllis, that my daughter, my 28-year-old daughter told me that I am so much better of a listener now than I was before I started this tour, because I'm just staying silent and waiting for the conversation to end. So it has not, she's 28. It's just, everybody just moves so damn fast. Me at the top of the list. I'm never anywhere for more than a few days, but I really, but I guess just the general point I'm making is it's amazing how much you can learn from these people if you intentionally take the time, put your phone down and engage in conversations. And the people themselves are so thirsty for somebody to listen that's interested in their life. They've lived a life that's so full and so rich, and it shrinks. Your life shrinks. You wind up in a community, in a small bed. You've got the pictures you've saved. And I can't tell you how many times I'll go into a person's room for hours and they'll just walk me through different phases of their life. And I get a hell of a lot more out of it than they do, but we both get a lot out of it.
Yeah. Well, listen, Jack, thanks so much. I know you're a busy guy traveling all over the country, but you were able to make the time to join me tonight. And I'm sure
I love it. It's always fun to see what you're up to.
Yeah. Yeah, you always say that, but from your innovative work with IN2L and people living with Alzheimer's, you kind of like fell into it, and it just goes to show, like you said, about being open and willing to go where the path takes you. And your present work with TaleGate is highlighting stories of elders. It's especially the eldest among us. To me, you continue to be an inspiration. So I hope viewers and listeners can do what they can do, can think about what they can do to elevate voices and offer dignity, respect, and quality of life for those who are often set aside, discounted, and neglected. Not necessarily for the ones in our family, but, for society as a whole. So thanks for always being the trailblazer you are.
All right. Thanks, Phyllis.
Take it easy. So now I'd like to turn to next week's guest on Senior Nation, and I'm thrilled that Mel Albom will be returning for part 2 of the series on how aging has been depicted on the big screen. This second part in the series will focus on films from 2000 to the present. So remember to tune in, comment, and ask questions on September 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Source TV Radio Network. And until then, take care, stay well, and stay tuned.
Go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know.